Good evening. My name is Abby Cooper, and I'm currently attending Grand Canyon University and taking the class EDU 330 in order to maintain and acquire my educational degree. This video will discuss various key points in how to maintain positive and a healthy classroom environment in terms of culture, race, gender, and other controversial topics and events. In reference to our first speaking point, what does it mean to be culturally competent educator? This means for an educator to be culturally competent, they will need to ensure they are not implementing unnecessary biases, beliefs, and opinions of their own as well as those that may cause harm to their students and others within and outside of the classroom. In order to ensure that this is being mandated, educators will need to become aware of the social justices and injustices arising in the world today. Educators can do so by creating and maintaining relationships and connecting with their students, the parents and guardians of each student, and within their community, as well as the professionals they work with. They will need to understand each individual student's connection to society and get to know them personally. As a future educator, it is my duty and responsibility to ensure students understand and support one another culturally, racially, and in all aspects of the differences we share as humans. Moving on to some of the next talking points, there are a multitude of areas in which educators and paraprofessionals, as well as professionals, should advance and discuss thoroughly on ways to provide all students with equal opportunities and better quality of resources. However, this is currently not the case, especially for those residing in the minority groups. Without proper resources and educational opportunities, students are affected greatly within their academics and how they view society as a whole. There are studies that have shown the African American and Hispanic races have suffered academically due to the lack of information supporting their cultural differences and identity, and lack of praise from its educators. Within the Hispanic community, it has been apparent that there is a language barrier for both the student and the educator, which eventually leads to lower academic progress and performance, and lack of confidence within the classroom, which puts them at a potential risk for dropout rates. Personally speaking, I feel I am and can be identified as a culturally proficient educator due to my ability to separate my own personal beliefs and opinions to ensure the success of my students. My background and knowledge of diversity helps me to be able to relate to all audience and share emphasis on policies and resources set in place to aid in societal development of equality. As educators of a very innovative and outspoken generation, we must adhere and inspire students to speak their minds while still maintaining fairness and equality among all. This can ultimately come with challenges, but also aid in the overall development, shaping children's minds to a more accepting attitude. Educators should try to create a positive environment by promoting individuality and celebrating the differences in which make each community and classroom unique. Students will often come with various differences such as religion, race, and even socioeconomic status. While students may be able to differentiate between one another, it is important for educators to try to get students to discuss similarities, while also having students learn from one another utilizing peer-to-peer teaching methods. Educators should also steer away from using biased vocabulary to get students to agree with their worldviews and standpoints. Instead, teachers should encourage students to debate and collaborate with one another, as well as the educator, on why they may disagree or agree. Professionals should want to help build a more accepting and diverse future generation to ensure racism, discrimination, and bullying in general come to a halt. Educators should also take annual and periodic classes that discuss various ways and techniques that will help to create a safe and supportive classroom environment. They should also continue with broadening their social horizon by attending various community events that support the rights and needs of others to help gain a better understanding of society as a whole, as well as their students and their cultural background. Overall, educators should always be willing to adapt and correct their behavior, attitude, and curriculum to fit the individual needs of each student, while also supporting parents or parental figures. Specific examples I may implement in my classroom or decide not to use would be some of the following. For instance, I will not assign blue or pink sticks or colors to a specific gender and let the students decide which colors they choose, how they're going to represent those sticks inside the classroom. These sticks will include who's going to answer which question, who I call upon, just stuff like that. Another example would be, in order to support gender equality, would be to encourage students to view their own gender in relation to career fields in comparison to their opposing gender, and ask to discuss why and why not they should be permitted. This will ultimately help students understand there are no specific rules, guidelines, or laws in place that a male or female should specifically work in a certain career field or they can't work in that career field. I will also be celebrating any and all culturally appropriate holidays, especially those that relate to my students. I will discuss the importance of this holiday and allow students to conduct their own research, such as collaborating with the student it relates to, and even if it doesn't. I will also incorporate various posters within the classrooms of individuals of each race who have achieved greatness and help them understand their importance on societies and communities and their role on how they've affected people within the world. My family background consists of multiple races and religions in which have helped shape me to the person I am today. My personal identity. As a previous foster child and low-grade economic individual, I was able to experience poverty, homelessness, and starvation. My brothers, who are half Hispanic and half white, have shown me that I'm a privileged white female who will not be subject to hate crimes as they would. Living within and outside of the foster care system showed me the privilege I had of being adopted by two loving parents who also adopted my three younger siblings. They personally showed me how amazing God is and how He can truly work wonders in anyone's life. Living within the walls of my biological home encouraged me to be the change I wanted to see my parents do and be. I want to help students who know and understand what it feels like to be abandoned. I want to help those, and I want to be the educator that shines light upon the darkness. I want to work with parents, parental figures, to find resources and community opportunities that can aid in a child's development as well as their own. I want a judgment-free classroom that encourages students to help one another instead of separating themselves from each other. I want to be the educator that encourages change in society and within themselves. I want to be the person that encourages others to be kind, and I will utilize some of my background with Christianity to help aid in that. However, I will not implement those in the classroom as A, it is against the law, and B, this is not something that I want my students to feel encouraged by, because I don't want them to feel my biased opinion onto their lives. So thank you for listening. Thank you for tuning in. I hope that this has somehow changed your mind. But yes, have a great night.